All right, it looks like we are on. So just making sure. All right, I'm gonna just go ahead and start talking because I think we're alive.
It looks like we are on my end.
You can see it on yours? Okay.
Yeah.
See, the good thing about the podcast is I can edit this part out where we're like, oh. So, all right, ICS. Good morning, organizers. We had a little bit of technical difficulty getting started here, but as posted and reminded about this morning, we're going to be talking with Andrew Gutierrez this morning, who is the president of Local 351 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So anybody that's involved in this group who happened to be at our last convention in 2018, we did our very first social media panel discussion there. It was kind of a workshop, and we had Andrew in then, and it went off really well. People really enjoyed hearing from somebody who is putting these social media strategies into place within an actual local union. It's hard for me to identify with you guys sometimes being up here at the International. So fun fact, Local 351 has the most social media accounts of any other local union. They have a Facebook page, a Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. Am I missing any?
I believe that's it.
Those are them. Okay, so we're gonna.
Oh, and a YouTube.
Oh, and a YouTube. Okay, so we're gonna talk a little bit about how he uses those things later on, but I want to start first. We're gonna do like a member profile so that people can get to know you a little bit first. So your union background, we did speak last week before doing this. It's not necessarily true that Andrew grew up in a family where it was made into a big deal, but incidentally, you do have family members who were union members. So will you just talk a little bit about that to start?
Correct. It wasn't talked about a lot growing up, but later after I became really involved with it, I started talking to my mom and some of my family about it. And it turns out I have tons of union family members, educators and former railroad workers and things like that. And I wish I had known it before, but it was still really fun to find out and start to talk to them about the union and pretty cool.
Yeah, it probably helped you understand better where your interest in it comes from, too.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of fell into place that you're super passionate about what you do.
Yes, I am. When I was still a shop steward and I was going through all kinds of training, not hosted by the International quite yet, I still wasn't that high up, but I attended a school called the Grace Carroll Rocky Mountain Labor School, which is hosted by the AFL-CIO. And that kind of was what lit the fire, learning from fellow union members. The instructors of these classes are actual members who volunteer and do it on their own time, on their vacations and things like that. And so you get these real lessons from actual people working inside the factories and inside these different industries. And that helped a lot. That really lit the fire and helped me understand the importance of it and the solidarity at these schools. You get 100 people that show up and you've never met each other before, but you all have this common interest and the solidarity is almost instant, and you build these bonds. I still talk to, this was 6 years ago or so, and I still talk to some of these people every single day. I mean, the things you build, connections you build there is really good. So that's a big part of the passion.
Yeah. Well, we shared a picture of your very cool tattoo a few weeks ago, and I was telling Andrew that tattoo is probably the most engaged with post on social media. Will you show them real quick again? I want to see.
Absolutely.
There it is. Union pride. That's so cool. I love it. Awesome. Okay, so you work at Bimbo Bakeries, right?
Correct.
Okay, so how long have you been working there, and then how did it come upon you that you were going to become a shop steward?
I've been inside the factory for 8 years now, and I probably became a steward within a year of being hired. I you know what did is I actually saw a flyer in the union bulletin board about a union meeting, and the language on the flyer specifically caught my attention. It said, "This is your union," and I didn't really know that I was at the time that I was even part of the union. I didn't really know what that meant, and although I was paying dues, and so I went to a meeting just to kind of see where my dues were going, what this was, this thing that was mine, and I just showed up out of the blue, and a lot of the people didn't really even know who I was, but I was able to verify that I was a member, and I loved it right away. They were the way they were so concerned with the members, the employees and their rights, and I just knew right then and there that I wanted to be a part of it, and so went to a few more meetings, and they quickly, swooped me up and started training me. And they also saw the passion and the interest and started grooming,
Yeah, that's cool. So you were shop steward for how long?
I mean, technically, I'm still a shop steward, I guess. But before I was an officer, I was a shop steward for maybe 3 years, I bet.
Okay, and then VP.
And I became the vice president, correct?
Okay, and then you mentioned Earl Reed. We should give a shout out to him because
correct. So Earl was also part of my grooming and my training, and he was the president and business manager at the time, and when I served as the vice president, which is how I started getting more involved with the international side and realizing that I kind of had something, and I wanted to pursue that, and he also saw that, and then he retired, and I ran for office. And I won my election. I did run opposed. This was a good race, but I did win that election, and here we are. And I just got reelected for my second term now.
Good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So anybody that kind of has been paying attention all along the way here, we did interview President Shelton last month, and he laid out the case then that his focus in his tenure here as the international president is going to be really focused in on serving the membership. And this is something that you do really well. So I do want to make sure that we talk a little bit about that, like your vision of what it means to lead a local union for starters. What is that?
Well, I feel like sometimes, and it's not anybody's fault, and I definitely know it's not intentional, but as we rise in the ranks a little bit, we kind of get disconnected, I feel like, from the membership or from the workers, especially if you move out of the factory and you're working out of the union hall full time now or things like that. And sometimes I've been to bigger union functions where the union officers are wearing suits and ties and stuff. And I've never owned a suit in my life. I wear jeans and boots, and I kind of could see, again, it's not intentional and it's kind of inevitable in some cases, but I could see the disconnection already from kind of that working class mentality and things like that. And I think that the fact that I still work in the factory, I think helps maintain that, and it's it's easier to service the members when you're working right next to them on the factory floor. But yes, I would agree with President Shelton, though. Servicing the members is that's our bread and butter. If the members feel like they're not involved or not being heard, then they kind of start to distance, and that's just counterproductive to our movement.
Yeah, this group that we have in here it's like focused a lot in communicating and educating and being present on social media. But what I've found through being the one that moderates our platforms is that all of those things are much harder to do when your membership isn't happy. It's like you can post whatever you want on social media all day long, but if the word of mouth is bad, like a foundational thing missing there. So that's really good. So you serve your bimbo shop. That's the largest one you guys have. And then you have smaller retail units around.
Correct. So we have 4 contracts, including bimbo. And then the other 3 contracts we have are retail bakeries, in-store bakeries in the grocery stores. So we have Kroger, which is the Smith's brand out here, but it's a Kroger company. Okay. And we have 23 Smith shops across the entire state. all the way from literally the border down in Las Cruces to the other side of the state in Farmington, which is north. So that becomes kind of hard to service because still working in the factory full time, running the local here at the office. It's so hard to get out on the road and see these members. And so we do the best we can. And I've learned, I kind of borrowed this idea from wine garden rights, where you take a shop steward with you. And I kind of do the same thing when I do these visits, is I try to get other officers and other members to attend and show them that I'm not the union. Collectively, we are all the union. And that's super important because people start to think of it as like this third party or separate entity, and they forget that they themselves are the union, and so, right. But servicing the smaller shops is more difficult, but probably more important even because they see us less. And so it's really important to try to keep them engaged and keep them and make sure that they know that we're listening and watching,
Yeah, that's good. So, all right, well, let's move into your social media strategies now. You had said you attended classes, which I think is great. Anytime anybody can find a class where you can exchange ideas with people in person, I would always recommend that. But you have different hashtag series. Would you just explain what each one is and what the strategy is behind each one?
Sure. So we have 3 regular hashtags that we post. We try to do it every week. Sometimes we do slip, but we're pretty good about doing it every week. And there's a 4th thing that we also do, which is our birthdays. We have a list of, we have our seniority list and it has everybody's birthday on it. So every month we also list our the members' birthdays, and we send out a free a union T-shirt to those members. And but the 3 hashtags are: we do a hashtag Member Monday, which is where we feature real pictures of our members. We try to show people the real life workers behind the union, and remind them that the union is people and it's workers, and so we do that. Every Monday we post a picture of our members. The second one is the Worker Wednesday series, which we post on Wednesdays, obviously, and it's usually a labor quote or quote of civil rights or labor rights or workers' rights, of the like, just a famous quote or a sometimes not so famous quote. And we do that just to try to keep the members engaged and involved and remind them this movement is exactly that. It's a movement and it's way bigger than us, and it'll be here long after us, and so just to try to educate them on that a little. And then the other one we do is Solidarity Saturday, which we post on Saturdays, which is from our YouTube channel. We actually have a huge playlist of union songs and union music on our YouTube channel. And so Solidarity Saturday is a different song from that playlist every Saturday that has to do with either workers or workers' rights or the union specifically, something. Yeah.
I remember when you started doing that. Is music something that you love?
Music is everything to me.
Yeah.
It's my.
Yeah, I remember when you started doing that. I thought that was really cool. I off the cuff a little bit. I want to remind everyone we belong to this group within the AFL-CIO. We always are in coalition with them and affiliated unions, but this podcast in particular belongs under Labor Radio Network. There's a podcast in there. You'll have to check it out. It's just strictly union history, labor history. And their intro changes every week. And it's a different song from history, a different labor song. And they'll always go ahead and say who wrote it and who sang it. And it's really cool. It's like all these little artifacts. And I've listened to 1 or 2, and I just find it so interesting. I think it was the speech that the first president of the AFL-CIO gave, their opening convention. They interviewed that guy, and I'm telling this all wrong, but it's super interesting. You'll definitely want to check it out.
That's right up my alley.
Another thing I wanted to add, because I follow a variety of things, because I'm the social media side of it, and always looking at people who are teaching marketing strategies too, because that's kind of something that we have to do. We're not necessarily trained in it, but it's good to know. And one of the people that I follow on social media always is saying, like, it just has to be at the forefront of your mind constantly. The union is not the hero. the people are, the people who are involved in it. And so I just think that you do such a great job of recognizing that. And I saw your member Monday today. The birthdays are huge, like making sure that those people are seen by more than just you. So that's really great. So the last thing I want to get into is the another thing that your union is really great about, community outreach. And also beyond that is making sure that you record what you're doing at these events and passing them on to Karina and I here at the International so that we can show it. Pictures, you know, the storytelling, it's so, so good. So first, like, I would just want you to talk about how you serve the labor community, the greater labor community, by showing up at different events, maybe political events or the New Mexico Fed, stuff like that.
Sure. You know, early on, Earl Reed actually taught me that. You know, one of the things he taught me was when I first went to my first AFL-CIO meeting as a secondary delegate, you know, under him, and he said, pay attention to some of the other unions because they'll talk about functions they have coming up or things that they might need, you know, bodies on the picket line, things like that. And at that particular meeting, nothing really happened. There wasn't any of that, but I never forgot that. And as I started attending these things solo, and people would bring out their issues, you know, they have a picket line or they have something going on, just a labor event. And so I started rounding up the members and just showing up to these things. Sometimes it would be a picket line. We picketed a lot with the hospital workers last year, and they were fighting for a contract. And there's nothing louder than when, you know, a whole nother union that has nothing to do with your industry, that the only thing you share is unionism, just shows up, you know, after a 12-hour shift, right on the picket line, fighting for their contract, has, you know, for their stuff. And they don't forget that. The other unions never forget that, you know. And then we were just doing it out of solidarity. We didn't realize we were making such connections. Then when we had a labor dispute and we were looking at potential strike, we put out a call to some of the other affiliates, and immediately the pledges started coming in. People were going to honor the picket line. They were going to show up, things like that. And so that was huge. And then, of course, we realized, you know, the correlation is, you know, you get out there and help them out. And if needed, they'll come out and help you out every single time. And like you say, we've gotten pretty good we've built a reputation for showing up. Everyone just kind of knows the bakers are going to be there.
Yeah, that's great.
So, yeah. And that's what we want. We want them to know that we're here, and that, again, the movement is bigger than the bakery or the BCTGM. It's an entire movement, you know.
Awesome.
And then as far as the recording it goes, you know, we try to, again, just showcase the members' involvement and remind the community that we are a community, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of us are better at that than others. I know. Like, I feel like even in my group of friends, there's like someone in the group who's just really good at telling the story. He takes the pictures, he posts the things on social media, and it makes you feel included in something too, which is cool.
Absolutely.
So what about some of the political action too? You do a lot of that as far as helping candidates that will help the union. And then I know that you have a couple of issues of your own that you're very passionate about. So just talk a little bit about that.
Correct. You know, we just starting with the basics as far as like voting and the rights to vote. You know, we try to encourage all members, no matter how they vote, just to go do it. Even whether they're voting for a union candidate or not, just go out and exercise that right. We really try to push that. In fact, we've even altered our union application to include a question of whether or not the potential member is a registered voter, just so that when the voting time does come around and we're doing a voting drive, we already have a list of people who aren't registered or who are registered. And that way we try to help people get registered to vote. And again, regardless of how they want to register or how they want to vote, it's just, I think, more important that they actually do it, you know?
Yeah.
So the political side, you know, it's just, I think it's a necessary involvement because, you know, if we elect pro-union candidates, well, then we pass pro-union legislation and we just further our rights in our cause.
Yeah.
So I think they go hand in hand. And then as far as I do have some other issues that I'm pretty active in, and that are not necessarily to do with the union directly. They're my own kind of personal activism. But I think all in all, it all connects to the union. One of those, for example, would be like immigration rights. I'm very pro-immigration, anti-deportation. And again, while that doesn't seem to the naked eye and might not connect directly to the union, but when we start talking about human rights and civil rights, our workers' rights, I think they're inseparable. And especially when, here in New Mexico, a lot of our membership are Spanish speakers or are immigrants from a Spanish speaking country. And so what better way to remind them that we're here for them than that kind of involvement. And again, it also has, sometimes there's that, not just a language barrier, but a trust barrier, to speak a different language. And so when they see or hear about me on my own time being involved in these processes or these battles, it definitely helps break down that trust barrier, because then they feel like they can trust you, and you're not gonna jeopardize their status or anything of that nature. And so that's a big one for me. And I think the union and the politics, whether we like it or not, they go hand in hand, and I think that's important to know and understand how and why they go hand in hand,
Yeah. And also you paying attention on a regular, I just feel like so much has changed in, gosh, like 8 years. I mean, so much has changed around politics. So unfortunately, it's harder to distinguish the truth now, but it's probably more important than ever to try, especially when you're leading a group of workers. So, so again, just alluding back to what President Shelton said last week, like, the definition of a union leader is kind of like to be that guy who is willing to stand up and say, like, this is an injustice for the people that aren't willing to maybe rock the boat, or they're afraid they're going to lose their job if they say something. Like, that is your job. And you just do such a great job of that. And, that we see you, because, even at the convention that year in 2018, President Durkee was like, there's going to be a picket down the street. And you were like the first guy, like, I'm there. There were two causes that year, right? There was that one, and then Unite Here with the hotel workers.
Correct. And
I cracked up because, we're in Vegas, and you guys, there was a handful of you that literally spent your time like demonstration hopping. It was so good. So that's cool. That's what we want here, right? Someone who's an activist and willing to stand up. We do have people in here commenting. Anthony Downing just said, "We see you." And Brent Hall too. Are you guys friends, Brent Hall?
Yeah, I know both of those gentlemen.
Social media. So
yeah.
Well, oh, and Kayla. Andrew always fights for his brothers and sisters. It's awesome. You got friends watching. So
it's good.
Andrew, do you have anything to add before we try to wrap it up?
I don't think so. I just hope everyone stays in the fight and keeps the union at the forefront. Without the union, we wouldn't have these rights, and we wouldn't be what we are. And so,
I just out of curiosity, like, what are you, millennial generation?
I think by the definition, I am. I'm 38 years old.
38. Okay, me too. I've just been reading a lot about, especially the attitude around unions. I feel like as I've been working here, it's changed a lot. When I started working here, nobody I knew understood it, or if they did, they didn't agree. And I feel like that has really shifted. I mean, to this day, and especially after the last year, I think millennials and even the one after us, whatever that is, Z.
I think so.
They definitely see the need for it. So, it's been tough, but I think there's a shift going on. I feel it.
There's a definite shift. I think the next round of union leadership is going to be millennials. They definitely are taking the reins. Their voices are getting louder, and it's about time.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all I've got then for today. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Touch. Good luck serving your members later. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.